Hello and welcome back to another flight review. Today we're here at Melbourne's Tullamarine heading to Wellington, New Zealand. It's just before 6 AM and check-in for my flight wasn't even open yet. However, it wasn't long until we were called through. Business class passengers can use the business class check-in lane along with frequent flyers of silver and above. Business passengers are entitled to 40 kilos or 88 pounds of priority checked luggage. Security was a breeze at this time of morning with absolutely no lines. So it's on to the lounges. I'm off to check out the Emirates lounge before the flight to Dubai departs. I will add before we get too far into the video, please do not mistake any criticism in this video for a lack of gratitude. I am incredibly lucky to be able to fly around the world and do these videos to share my thoughts on the airline and give an honest opinion whether it's worth doing this flight or not. The Emirates and Etihad lounges are just around the corner and up an escalator. Seeing as the flight boards in a few minutes, there was only enough time for a quick look around. This lounge has plenty of seating, a selection of breads and cupcakes, etc., hot foods like eggs, bacon, sausages, tomato and mushrooms. All of this is accompanied by a wide selection of beverages, and in the small island there are some chilled foods like parfaits, cereal, fresh fruits and juices. This lounge has great views of the gates and runways. Here I tried getting a video of Qatar's One World livery 777-300ER. Wasn't long until the Emirates flight boarded, so it was time to head to the QANTAS lounge. The QANTAS International Business Lounge in Melbourne is nicknamed the Dungeon by frequent visitors. This lounge is decent but overdue for an upgrade. Good news though, as an upgrade has just been opened as of mid-2024. One good thing about this lounge is there are a few different seating areas, but none of them are very private. This lounge has a nice selection of cereals, juices, spirits, wine, beer and soft drinks in this cabinet. Following along there's a pancake machine plus pastries, parfaits, fresh fruits before getting into the hot foods such as sausages, scrambled eggs, mushrooms, roasted tomatoes along with toast. Over the other side there is a barista along with a few other things. I got a hot chocolate and made a ham, cheese and tomato sandwich, a parfait and of course an apple juice. The hot chocolate and coffee were the best part of the lounge. Later on I got a croissant and date and cranberry pastry. The croissant was perfect, buttery and still a little warm. The date and cranberry pastry was also pretty good. As I make my way to the gate, I highly recommend spending the time in the Emirates lounge here in Melbourne as opposed to the QANTAS Business Lounge. Once ready to board, business class passengers and those with One World or partner status can board using the business class boarding lane. Today I am in seat 2 Foxtrot. My aircraft for today is a 12.4-year-old Boeing 737-800 nicknamed Kalgoorlie and registered Victor Hotel, Victor Zulu Tango. The 3 rows of business class are in a 2-2 configuration. At your seat is a bottle of water and welcome drinks of champagne, orange juice and water are offered. We taxied down to runway 16 for a departure to the north before making a few right-hand turns followed by a left-hand turn to head towards New Zealand. Shortly after takeoff, meal orders were taken. There are no paper menus here, which is quite disappointing considering Air New Zealand, Emirates and LATAM offer paper menus on trans-Tasman flights in business class. Let's go over Qantas's IFE system on their 737-800. As you can already tell, it's quite slow and unresponsive. The screen itself looks the same size as the economy ones and seems very small on such a large seat. The screen is also not very bright and can be difficult to see with the window shade up. The in-flight map is alright, but it would be better with a refresh and if it was made interactable. The selection of movies and TV shows is pretty good for a 3-hour flight. This aircraft is Wi-Fi enabled, but there's no Wi-Fi on this flight. There are headphones provided by QANTAS too, which are pretty good by airline standards. So overall, QANTAS doesn't offer anything amazing on the IFE side of things. Next, we'll go over the seat features on board this QANTAS 737-800 before getting into the food. The tray table comes out from the inside armrest and can be half or fully deployed, plus slides back and forth. The seat back screen is small, but you can tilt it up and down. There are basic seat controls for the 8-inch recline and deploying footrests, which is very awkward to get out, but once out is pretty sturdy. In this seat you will get 2 windows, both of which have window shades that come down from the top and move relatively smoothly. Beside the seat in a strange place is the remote to control the IFE screen, so you don't have to deal with touching it. I found some very dark footage of the USB and power outlets in between the seats. The very large seat back pocket houses a safety card, sick bag and in-flight magazine. In the overhead panel there are 3 individual adjustable air vents to share between 2, along with an adjustable reading light and crew call button. Finally, let's get into the breakfast on board this QANTAS business class flight from Melbourne to Wellington. Today's meal arrived on a single tray brought straight out from the galley. It strangely consisted of a main and 3 desserts. Albeit a bit strange, I'm not complaining. The breakfast sausages and caramelised onion were clear highlights of this main meal. The onion was done very well. The rest of the main was a big letdown. The yellow square of an unidentified substance was completely bland. It was okay when mixed with the tomato. All it needed was a bit of salt and pepper and just some sort of flavouring. The tomato onion mix was alright, but a clear letdown was the spinach. The spinach came out of a frozen packet and tasted absolutely terrible. Moving on to dessert 1, the rhubarb tart was a little dry for my liking, but pretty good. Dessert 2 is a cocoa black chocolate which QANTAS offers on all flights. This one was a bit strange, but the other ones I've had were really tasty. Dessert 3 was a delicious berry yogurt. I accompanied the meal with a glass of water and Schweppes ginger ale. Overall, a pretty average breakfast QANTAS. Later on into the flight I decided to order a hot chocolate. It was a decent size and helped make up for the average meal. As we descend into the capital of New Zealand, let's conclude this flight with QANTAS and give it a score out of 10 when compared to the other trans-Tasman business class flights I've taken. The QANTAS International Business Lounge in Melbourne, aka the Dungeon, was a decent lounge but was outshone by the Emirates lounge, which I recommend over the QANTAS one. The lounge is a score of 7 out of 10. The seat was a standard narrow-body business class seat. It was very clean, had plenty of legroom, great recline, and a good sized tray table. My only complaint is the size of the IFE screen, which was quite small by today's standards. 7 out of 10 here. The meal was an interesting one. There was a nice selection of welcome drinks, 3 desserts, but none of them were absolutely amazing must-try ones. And the main was quite average. There were certainly some standout things like the yogurt for dessert, but you can just buy that from a supermarket. The caramelised onion was very good, just a shame there wasn't more of it. QANTAS usually does beverages such as wine very well, and this flight was no exception. However, I stuck for the non-alcoholic ginger ale. All in all, the meal earns a pretty generous 6 out of 10. I've had far better breakfasts in the sky, even on QANTAS. I will add that QANTAS really need to add paper menus. The service on this flight was the top-notch service you expect on QANTAS. Our flight attendant learned everybody's names and addressed all the passengers by name. They were always offering more drinks and even noticed my filming and organised a visit to the flight deck after the flight. Couldn't fault the service, 10 out of 10. The IFE system was super slow, probably the worst IFE I have had on a flight. The selection of movies was alright, there were quite a few TV shows too. The size of the screen, as previously mentioned, was very small, but I won't factor it in here. 6 out of 10. All in all, QANTAS's International Business Class on the 737-800 earns a score of 7 out of 10. An alright business flight, QANTAS. I wouldn't recommend flying it unless you find a great deal. This flight cost me $1,011 booking 1 month before departure, whilst economy was $1,038. Therefore, a no-brainer to book business. As always, enjoy the landing into Wellington.
Welcome to Wellington, where the local time is 1:26 p.m. on Sunday the 5th of March. Finally, on behalf of all of us here at QANTAS International, thank you for choosing to fly with us. If you're visiting Wellington, we hope you enjoy your stay, and of course...
Welcome to Wellington. A shout out to Wellington Flights Live for letting me use their footage. As always, a massive thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time as I fly domestic on an Air New Zealand ATR 72 from Tauranga to Christchurch, before heading across the Tasman again, where I compare economy versus business class on the recently ceased Rex Boeing 737-800.